My name is Joseph Mabology Aina. I'm a painter that was previously based in the UK. I studied at the Royal College of Art for 2 years doing the painting course. Decided to come to Nigeria for a residency, which initially was intended to just be like 1 month, but I quite enjoyed the experience a lot. I quite liked how the environment was making me be a little bit more cautious about the way in which I was painting. In the sense that, in this space I'm in currently, it's a little bit harder for me to get sort of like paints. In the UK, I can easily order or walk to the art shop. But the fact about me having to be so conscious about, going to a location far away in order to get paints, let me understand. Let me, I think, value paint more, and value the experience of painting, and understand how to be a little bit more tactful with less material and less paint. So rather than sort of building up the canvas with numerous oil layers, instead I've used acrylic and then sort of chalk on the surface. So two fairly different techniques, but I was able to sort of get the same energy out from doing the new approach. I think it's something I'm definitely gonna try and continue. The one issue with sort of changing space frequently is the fact about style taking some leaps. But whilst that is to some extent a misfortune, in the sense of not having, I guess, a long-term cohesion. For me, I find it quite useful, as it's helped me to, I guess, find different ways of working. Because I previously didn't actually do a undergraduate in painting. I just went straight onto my masters, and so although the masters went great, I feel I hadn't yet had that sort of 3 years of experience where I could be testing out a range of different techniques. So essentially, I'm using this time after graduation to sort of do a number of residencies, work in different locations with different people, and just keep on sort of pushing my practice till I can come back to one space and then fully commit to them. I came to art mainly because during my childhood I was very interested in art. I used to do a lot of artwork and poetry, both in school and during my free time. Yeah, so my artist management experience, it certainly gave me some element of commercial awareness and ability to, I guess, understand the key metrics of business. It was very helpful with that. However, those are things that are very distant from creating good artwork. Creating good artwork isn't really about business or about money. I wish it took me, really took me some time to understand that upon doing my degree at the Royal College. That's why I've even been going through this process of doing a lot less. Trying to create like I've been speaking about my new work as the poetic fundamentals. So the minimum things needed or required to make your work very, very strong. That's not, that's very distant from pop art. You're not trying to pop and grab attention. Instead, you're just trying to go to the skeleton and hold on to some substance. That's not trying to be liked. It's just trying to express a certain topic. But my earliest artistic memory was just the time when I used to do a lot of oil painting at home. Because during my first school, we didn't get taught how to use oil paint. We were just using acrylics chalks and just, most of the like sort of like standard materials. So then I used to just go to the art shop. My mum will buy like a lot of oil paint, and we'll just search online how to use it, and we just literally just learn ourselves how to sort of use oil paint. So yeah, that's my earliest memory. Learning point was definitely going to the RCA, the Royal College of Art. It was a very big step up for me, just working in my garage, to then like being in a space where there are a lot of different artists. My greatest artistic influence, I think I'm very influenced by just landscapes, just the skyline, really, like the sky landscapes, and just like nature essentially. I think it inspires me a lot because it just gives me a sort of like reference point to how my psychological state is. Because essentially, because the skyline is always has some like beauty in it. There's always some peace in it. So I think it just gives like a very great checkpoint. When things aren't aligned, then like let's go back to the skyline and sit there again and let's see what can assess. So almost like artworks just act as a sort of psychological analysis. You can go back to the work and reference it, and question yourself as to why you've depicted it in one certain way. So with this new series that I've been doing here, I was really just focusing on like using very, very thin layers of acrylic, because my main focus was in trying to be very like limited, both in my use of materials and also palette. So that's why like with a lot of my new pieces, there's a lot more of a sort of constraint palette. I've tried to keep the colors under five key colors. Well, I feel when palette is a lot more focused, there can be more attention put on the actual like painting technique, rather than attention just put on the color, and it allows me to make decisions that are a lot more focused. I will just do like a sort of rough sketch in a sketchbook, just to give me some like basis to go off, and so that allows me to have a better understanding of what I'm doing on the canvas and not need to sort of do as many layers. To get to the point which was ideal, it took me a lot of sort of layers, a lot of time, a lot of layers, just to sort of recover from the past sketching, because essentially it meant I was sketching onto the canvas and trying to like then plan it out. Which is just about focusing on the minimum, but the minimum amount of things that are essential in order for success. So it's a bit different from minimalism, because I feel that's very much about the bare minimum. Whereas in this sense, I'm looking more as in terms of the essentials. So that's going a little bit further than the minimum, and having a larger scope in terms of what's required. So you're still making few choices, but you're not letting the idea of few choices govern the whole practice. Instead, what governs the whole practice is purpose. Poetry is much more in reference to the idea of how when one creates a poem, I feel the poem is very much aesthetic recount of a story, in the sense that one will be very, very purposeful when it comes to the word choice, the intonation, which was rhyme, all in order to sort of make sure it fits in that poem format. If you even look at haikus, for example, they have a very, very formative structure. Or they even like there are many sort of poetry methods that have a formative structure, like you have to rhyme certain words in certain places. Oh yeah, exactly, even sonnets. They have this sort of law which is followed. So I'm trying to apply a similar theory and similar structure into the artwork, just so the work has some sort of law and has some sort of measure, has some sort of thing that I can, subconsciously hold in my head that eventually gives me that style. The inspiration behind this body of work has really been this experience of being in Lagos. It's really coming back home to Nigeria that's allowed me to gain true understanding of this concept I'm speaking of the fundamentals. Because Nigeria contrasts a lot from the UK in the sense that there's not the abundance of everything. During the time which I came here, they just sort of they just changed the naira, to a new format. So obviously it meant everyone has to go and sort of return their old naira in hope of getting a new one. But unfortunately the banks weren't up to speed with the process. So going through that, firsthand and seeing it from everyone else, it made people become a lot more so cautious about spending habits. Every movement you make has to be thought through. You have to think through, if you really need to take a Uber somewhere, because obviously, secondly as well, we also have the issue of having minimal oil for and petrol for cars. So you have to be very, very careful about considering whether you need to make a certain journey, if you need to buy so many fruits when you go shopping. So it let me sort of see how one can use unfortunate circumstances to create some sort of benefit within one's life and within one's sort of journey. Let you be a lot more streamlined in your thinking. Being in a space where I literally couldn't access the same things I needed in order to make my old artworks. Obviously going through art school, you're sort of pushed to think about your work in a philosophical way, which is great and which is helpful, but unfortunately, once you're faced with sort of issues like that, not being able to get certain materials, then you have to acknowledge the fact of your work changing, because you can't physically make that old work. So I also had to sort of step out that philosophical notion and just go into reality and figure out myself how I'm gonna try and conceive the same energy of my old work whilst not directly really making something exactly the same vision. Some of the key things which I try and exhibit within my work is just the theme of cohesion and things being connected. That's why I do a lot of mark making that's sort of cyclic, that's sort of like circular in nature, and has a lot of sort of curves, just to show the sort of flow of energies around the space. Success really just means like staying as true as possible to the nature of the work. I've been able to understand that concept a lot more now when I've stepped out of art school, and then you're sort of conflicted with the idea of like sales and selling work. Just because of the very, very limited palette, the very limited palette, and how I've made sort of few decisions. This piece here is probably the epitome of the like concept which I've been speaking about. Essentially, the piece is just really the whole series is just an extension of that of the poetic fundamentals concept. You know, they're all inherently the same idea, just spread over a number of different landscapes. Just different methods of me exploring that same idea and you know, seeing how it can be pushed. I didn't actually, in all honesty, I didn't really find them too challenging. You know, because I had a thorough understanding of what I was doing, things just felt very natural. And the easiest part about it was selecting the colors, because I had just, you know, I just used this sort of reference point of landscapes and just knew how to put them together nicely. When viewers encounter the work, I hope they also get that same feeling of peace that I described when one sort of looks at a landscape. You know, just feeling settled and rested, as if like time has paused. The biggest lesson that I've learned so far in my career is just really to take things slowly. You know, not to rush the process, not to compare oneself to others, and just like take things day by day and keep on pushing work.